Hello everyone. We are welcomed to the Let's Play seminar. And today our speaker is Alessia Antelmi, who is now in University of Turin. And she will going to talk about assessing the impact of group interactions on climate-related opinion change in Reddit. And then the second part, she will initiate a discussion about transitioning from PhD to independent researcher in academia. Alessia, now the time is yours.
Okay, so thanks for the introduction. Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me today. Um, I'll skip the introduction on these slides, and I'll. Okay. In this talk, basically, what I like to present is a work that I've been doing during my internship in when I was at the IT University of Copenhagen with Luca Iello, and this is a joint work with also Carmine Spagnolo from the University of Salerno. And what we were trying to understand here is actually understanding the impact that groups have on our everyday life. Because, there are a lot of works from sociology and psychology that have shown that group interactions shape the individual's behaviors and opinions. And as a consequence, understanding group memberships is fundamental to actually understand how people behave. And traditionally, groups formed in the offline world, but with the advent of online social media, many group decision processes actually moved in the online space, as we have seen with, for instance, financial collective actions. And in this context, the meaning and the importance of online social influence becomes crucial because of the exponential number of potential user connections. And how we can actually understand how people communicate on social media is basically reading conversations, online conversation. So understanding online conversations is becoming fundamental to also understand and offline people behaviors. And recently, a lot of literature actually has demonstrated that both theoretically and empirically, that group interactions actually play a role in information diffusion. But what is still missing in this context is actually studying this phenomenon from a data-driven perspective. And this is what we try to do in this work. Basically, in other words, we try to answer these two research questions. The first one relates to a more structural question. So, how can we actually capture with a network model the high-order interactions that are happening in conversational data that we can observe in conversational data? While the second question is whether actually introducing these high-order informations can actually lead to the simulation of, for instance, an opinion diffusion process that actually mimics better what's happening in the real online world. So let's focus on the first part, on the first question first. How can we model that conversations? We did that with hypergraphs. So first things first, hypergraphs are these beasts here. Basically, these structures are a generalization of the standard graphs where each edge, that is called a hyperedge, can connect an arbitrary number of nodes. We use these structures to model conversational networks. And basically here what we tried to do was to model the fact that maybe users can be influenced more by some local parts of conversations. So what we did was to link together all comments into a single hyperedge if they belong to the same subthread. So for instance, here you have the hyperedge one that connects all comment 1, 2, and 3. And this is, let's say, a user-based visualization. So in this hyperedge, what we put basically the users, so not comments. And then we have that user D and user E replied to user C, so they form another hyperedge. And the last one, we have user F, user A, and user E, and they belong to our third hyperedge. So this is a static view of a conversational network built with hypergraphs. But what we wanted to embed here was also the fact that maybe all comments may not exert the same influence of neural one, but you can generalize this comment to any other priority metrics that you can think about, because we actually don't know how the algorithms works basically. So we don't know how they push comments. So we just thought about time here. And what we did was to add a temporal dimension on this framework. And basically we use 3 different parameters that regulate how we model the influence of time. We have one parameter that controls how many new comments, or in general, new events we consider on the timeline. We have a decay function that describes how quickly past events lose importance. And we also have maybe an event importance threshold, so in our framework. Okay, second part. Now we have this framework, and we want to assess whether these structural frameworks actually help us in quantifying the importance of groups in a process of opinion diffusion. So we also worked and proposed an evaluation frameworks. And these are the key elements of this framework. Let's start with the data. As data, I already talked about conversations, and basically we focused on Reddit as this platform is conversation focused, and we considered 6 subreddits that you can see in the table here. So we crawled Ask Reddit, Bay Area, California, Collapse News, and Politics. From July 1st, 2020 to December 21st, 2022. And basically, what we did was to, let me take a step back. Basically, what we wanted to study, okay, whether and group interactions are actually important from a data-driven perspective in processes of opinion formation diffusion, okay? But what we did was focusing on a very specific topic that is the climate change, okay? So what we did was to look for an exogenous events, and we wanted to try to capture how people felt about this event. And we identified the California wildfires because our idea was to understand, okay, was to try to capture this thing. Okay, probably there is a user that does not believe, let me simplify this, probably there are some users that do not believe in climate change, but then the California wildfire happened, and maybe those users can change their idea. So we wanted to try to capture this in conversations. So we got all these submissions and comments, and we filtered our data based on some keywords related to this event. As a network model, we compared our temporal hypergraph-based model with a click-based model where basically each hyperedge is replaced by complete subgraph. And we also considered the standard reply-based model, even though we didn't consider any direction here, because considering directed hypergraphs is not a well-defined problem. Okay, as then we needed an opinion diffusion model. There are a lot, but we needed a model that we could actually use as is, both on hypergraphs and graphs. And we used the model proposed by Rohit et al. Because this model was particularly suitable for our study because it combines homophily and group pressure and conformity social theories, and we were able to apply these diffusion models to all three structures without modifying the underlying algorithm, just because you can see each graph as a particular case of a hypergraph, where each hyperedge is size 2. And also with this model, we were able to simulate various outcomes, including polarization, consensus toward the mean, and also a combination of both. So it allows us to explore different scenarios. The evaluation. Okay, this was quite a problem actually, because if you work on models of opinion diffusions and you want to actually match how good your model performs against some data, you know that there are no ground truth data about opinions, at least at large scale. And here I really want to thank Arianna Pera, because she helped me a lot for like 4 months. We worked a lot trying to get ground truth data about stance toward like the claims climate change is real. Okay, so what we did, we tried a lot of things, but at the very end, we used the GPT 3.5 model to label each piece of text in our dataset with a label saying how much each user was positive or negative towards climate change. As a prompt, we use a zero-shot prompt, and we formatted our prompt based on the methodology used to create the Spinos dataset, that is a human-labeled dataset that contains, for instance, stance related to climate change, guns, and other debatable topics. Another problem that we had to address was, okay, now we have our data, we have our network model, we have the diffusion model, but we have some sort of ground truth. But how can we actually match how well each model actually mimics what is happening in the real data? Because we couldn't really use the standard evaluation metrics for ML tasks or also for comparing time series. So what we did was to try to design some metrics that were able to capture the ability of each model in understanding the first time a user changes their opinion, because from empirical studies, we know that users actually do not change opinions very much. And if they change their opinion, it happens gradually. So the first time this happens is crucial. And also we were interested in understanding whether each model was able, how good each model was in identifying the last user opinions. So we came up with these three criteria, but I'll just show you the results for the first one. So focusing on the first opinion drift, and the last one so we will focus on the last opinion. Okay, for the first experiments here, what we did was to compare the three models that I showed you. And we used as data all single subreddits and a combination of subreddits. We compared the three models using a temporal window of 1 day. And based on the empirical distribution of the ground truth user final opinions, we set as opinion diffusion parameters the ones that led to partial consensus and emerging polarizations. And as evaluation, basically, we formulated the problem similar to a multi-class classification task. So this is the first result. Basically, these plots shows the average accuracy scores for the first criterion that basically assesses how well each model detects the first opinion shift of each users. And in other words, this is the percentage of cases where the model identifies both if a drift in the opinion happens and in which directions, so whether positive or negative. And here I want you to focus on basically on two many things. The first one is that we can note that the hypergraph-based models achieves higher performance compared to the click-based graph and the reply-based graph, even though we have a drop in performance when we consider the politics subreddit and the Ask Reddit subreddit. And we need to explore this, but probably is due to the nature of the subreddit themselves. These two plots focus on the third criterion. So we are looking here at how well each model performs in predicting the final user opinions. And if we look at the first plot, here we see that basically there is no statistical difference between all models. But if we focus on the subset of these users that actually changed their opinion, so we still can observe the pattern that I showed you before. So here we have that the hypergraphs is able to the hypergraphs and also the click-based graph are more able to detect whether users changes their opinion from the start of the simulation to the end of the simulations. But this does not happen at the expenses of also detecting whether users do not change their opinion. But if, as you can see here, the percentage is quite low, and I'll comment these numbers in a moment. It seems from these results that, and also it's reasonable to think that it's easier to detect whether users do not change their opinion, rather the opposite. Okay, we also focused on understanding the importance or correctly modeling the time window. And we use the same experimental setting, but here we just focused on a single data set, merging all data together. And we experimented with different time windows. And this is again the first, this plot is the same that I showed you before, just focusing on this single data set. And here again, we are looking at how good each model is in detecting the first opinion change of users. And once again, here we have that the hypergraphs consistently outperforms the other models. But another interesting result is that if we consider a higher granularity, all performance decreases, especially the one from the hypergraphs. So this suggests that maybe we should look at very small intervals of time if you want to actually capture opinion opinion change, but in general, how opinion spreads. These two plots, again, focus on how well each model predicts the user's final opinions, and we can again see that if we consider all users, we don't have basically any statistical difference, but if we only focus on users who change their opinion, we still can note a difference in the model and that we lose expressiveness power when we consider broader time windows. So just to wrap up what I said, what we did was to propose a model based on hypergraphs to actually capture the high-order interactions happening in conversational data and how these evolve over time. And we also try to propose a framework to compare different models against some ground truth data, especially in a controlled setting. I want just to highlight two main findings. And the first one is that actually we have a signal that modeling high order interactions actually with, in this case, with hypergraphs, but this modeling approach can actually offer maybe a more realistic representation of what is happening. But still, if you have seen the numbers, they were really, really low for instance, if you are used to some machine learning pipelines where you want to have at least 97% of accuracy at least. But the crucial thing here was that we didn't really have some ground truth data to effectively evaluate and compare these different modeling approach. And this is important because maybe this is some more provocative future work directions. The thing is that if we really want to understand how opinion spread in online social media, to understand offline user behavior, maybe we really need some ground truth data to match our theoretical models. And probably we need to also think about these theoretical models because maybe they don't match anymore what's really happening. In the real world, I said about the real world, but it's actually the online world. That's it. So thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very interesting talk. Any questions from the audience?
I might have one. Maybe it sounds a bit skeptical, but I would like to ask it. So, I mean, I've seen Reddit and I have used Reddit, but I've seen like that something else probably works much better than higher order graphs. Like signed networks probably work better in this sense. Like people they post something on Reddit and then it's like then they see like, okay, like this, there is like the misunderstanding, there is like something that they just like don't like it, and then they just like try to have the opinion, but in terms of like a sound edge, meaning that they are not in consensus together. So I think, in my opinion, like having the higher order representation is the opposite of these things, meaning that you just go, instead of like the pairwise interactions, you make everything like a whole set of people interacting with each other, that they are not in the same structure of the like interactions. Like you just put everybody in a basket that you think like maybe they are interacting in terms of like the consensus, and then it's like changing the opinion of the people, but maybe it's not. So I don't understand this point. So maybe if you can explain it a bit, I would be much, it would be much greater. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think that I mean you can also have some signed interactions. So because you can also have some signed hypergraphs, so you can put a sign between the interactions. But our idea was to with this model, basically, we are not putting all users together, but just the ones that reply to the same comment. So,
Yeah.
for instance, if you are here, the user A, and you comment to user E, in this case, probably you have read the comment from user F here.
Yeah.
So, it's not a proper pairwise interactions
Yeah.
because you are interacting with user E, but okay, we are assuming that I agree on that, but we are assuming that user A has also read the comment from F, so this user is replying, keeping in account what user F has said. So if there is a conversation, all users can um, um, interact together in a way. Clearly, this is a very, there are also limitations in this because maybe user F has read what A has said, but we don't have any, we cannot keep track of that because
Okay.
it's just a partial view. But of course, here we are not considering the direction of the interaction. We are not considering, as you suggested, the how the interaction is happening. If I'm commenting to another user saying, okay, I agree with you, or saying, no, I do not agree with you. We are just considering how these users engage in terms of climate change. So yes, it's very preliminary work on that. But we were, yeah, the idea was just to say, okay, there are a lot of diffusion models, but how good are they in predicting what's happening? And if you read works of this type, actually there is no a proper validation of the model proposed. I mean, they are all reasonable, but okay, you still need to validate the model, and this work goes in that direction.
If anybody has any more question, I mean, please go ahead. I thank you for the question, but if nobody else has questions, I would like to ask a bit more. Yeah.
I have a question actually. Can you hear me well? Can you
Yeah.
see me also? Okay, perfect. Hi, Alessia. Thank you for the talk. I have just a question regarding the influence between a group. For example, if maybe I misses a part, but in the case of, for example, climate change, can you measure, for example, if someone have changed idea given the influence of all the posts, all the comments, all the discussion? For example, if user C, given the fact that he read the cluster one, so A and B, also cluster five, etc., in the end he had a start. Well, in the beginning he had an idea about some topic, but in the end he actually changed given the influence.
That's a good comment. I wanted to do that because I didn't actually had a look of how and why, for instance, a user changed their opinion, either in the simulation or in the ground truth data. But what I wanted to do was to study whether, for instance, users acting as bridges actually could spread. There are a lot of work that say that, but could actually also in this case spread the opinions better rather than other users. So yes, that's like future work, but that was very interesting. So
Thank you.
Hello, yeah. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, very, very interesting. I really like the work and yeah, I like that the idea of validating models. I think that's great. Although, yeah, of course, there's always many more things to do. I was wondering regarding the 2 points you were saying about the future of, there was one about ground truth and the other one, the model.
The very beginning, at the very end.
Yeah.
This one.
Yes.
Right.
Come on. Yeah. So I was wondering, like, what are your thoughts regarding that? I mean, because it's hard to get ground truth. I mean, it's, you could say it's even impossible to get a proper ground truth. So I guess you could label some things manually, or I don't know if you have checked some of these things, some part of the data set, or just looking at examples. Or
Yes, I mean, we worked a lot on trying to build the ground truth, either with more standard NLP methods, and then we resorted to LLMs, because this dataset Spinos actually has some manually annotated piece of text regarding these debatable topics. But the problem is that these are just, there are conversations and you have just some of the comments that are labeled. So you have a partial ground truth. And if you want to study it at large scale, you just cannot. And probably as also the general research is going, one we could try to use LLM and human annotators probably to build this ground truth. But here to go large scale, I would say, but also having a small curated data set of also, I don't know, 10 users over like 1 year, 2 years. That also would be great, I would say, because there is nothing on that. But this is not easy. So
yeah.
we all know that, because when you work with user data, and also it's difficult now, you need to cherry picking the topic and curate the conversations. Yeah, it's not a thing that you can just, okay, I want to build a ground truth now and let's do that. Yeah, but so I don't know, I don't have the answer basically on that, but probably these are the directions to go, either large or small created data set. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I guess the question would be like, have you evaluated the performance of the labeling?
We
Or not
basically
at all? Yeah.
we evaluated the performance of the GPT 3.5 and the GPT-4 models against the partial ground truth we had with Spinos.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the only thing that we could do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I didn't show you the results, but yeah, they were okay-ish.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Any other questions?
I mean, I would say a very short one. Did you try to evaluate these kind of things based on simulations that you have, like for example, based on some agent-based models, and then see is it like really similar things, or like is it because of like the other rules in the social media, because of Reddit's stuff, it's like this. So
No, we didn't build an agent-based model following some rules, but that could be another nice things to try. What we just tried to do was to have, okay, let's have a as objective as possible ground truth. Because also if you build an agent-based simulations, you at the end of the day, you need to calibrate your model somehow, and you need to again evaluate against some real-world data the model. So, but yes.
yeah, no, I see that. Okay, great, thank you. It was very nice work.
Thank you.
I have one question myself. So you compare the three different frameworks like hypergraphs, and click networks, and another one, what is it called?
The reply-based, we call it reply-based, but the standard.
Yeah. So from the model you're using itself, what is the key difference from like the mechanism of the dynamic in the model? What is the key difference between the hypergraph-based model and the click-based model?
Basically here the formula that you use behaves different, because here you have like a non-linear behavior in the hypergraph.
Okay.
Because I didn't show you the formula, but if you apply the formula here and apply the formula here, it's slightly different. Because here you consider the group as a whole when you evaluate how opinion spreads, while here you sum the different pairwise interactions. Clearly, here you have more interaction than here. So, but there is no difference in the timing of opinion spreading. That's interesting. So, because what we thought was that, okay, modeling opinion spreading with the hypergraphs probably can anticipate opinion change in the simulation, but this does not happen.
Okay, so can I interpret that the person in the environment of either a hyper edge or a click is different because of the nonlinearity in the collective interaction, the collective effect of the interaction?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Basically that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I would suggest we move to the second part of the seminar, the discussion. If you have any slides, feel free to share it.
Yes,
Otherwise,
probably I talked too much in the first part.
Introduction. Yeah.
I'll go really, really short here. But what I'd like to discuss is what I'm actually living right now, because that is the transition between a junior position like PhD or postdoc position to a more senior position. But with senior position, I don't mean having a tenure position. Okay, I don't know if I'm sharing again. Probably no, I'm not sharing anymore.
And I mean, if you have something to share, feel free to share. If you don't,
yes, I was.
to see the face of everyone here.
Yeah. No, because probably I shared the window, not the screen.
Okay.
Now you should be seeing the slides.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, cool. So I was saying that I'm not talking about tenure position, because when you get into a senior non-tenure position, you get all the duties of this position, but without getting the benefits. So I would like to start this discussion with the thing that my supervisor used to say to me, that is this analogy, and he said that PhD students are like puppies of academia, because everyone loves them and wants to protect them, and in effect as a PhD student, you are learning and you have also the right to ask whatever question. And basically, this is a very high level overview of what the time of a PhD student should be. So most of the time you should be focusing on research and study, and that these activities overlap. And you also may spend a slice of your time for other activities like paperwork, or you may also have teaching duties. And then you grow up and you become a postdoc. So you defended successfully your PhD thesis and you enter the best time of your academic life, where you can go around, you get to know the rules of academia, you have your own friends that you can meet at conferences, but still you don't really have some real responsibility, because there is still your supervisor that can advise you. And in this case, you can focus a lot on research, and maybe you can add in your timeline some other activities, like you can also organize conferences, you are involved in editorial boards, or a lot of other things. The trouble starts when you get a senior position, and especially when you get a senior position when you are not really ready, because probably, as it happened to me, I just did like 1 year and a half of postdoc. So I got this assistant professorship position here in Turin, that is not tenure, when I was still very young, and probably I was not so ready to change my mindset, because what happens when you get these kind of positions, your activity schedule basically changes. And here I actually had to put like 3 pie charts, because the time is never enough. You want to work on research, because I said in academia, because I actually could continue working on research I wanted to, but here you have a lot of teaching and department duties. You need to work also on projects, writing projects, doing project meetings for having fundings. And you also have a lot of other activities, a lot of paperwork. You still need to organize conferences, you are involved in editorial boards, and blah, blah, blah. A lot of things. And still, in all this mess, we still need to remind us that the imposter syndrome, and we talked a lot about that with Arianna, is still around the corner. And this work is always a roller coaster of emotions. So the problem is, how can we deal with this mess of different tasks to do? And over the past year and a half, I was lying down as Murphy in this picture. And just actually recently, I realized that the biggest problem that I had was that, for me, the only thing that I could count as work was the part of research. So I used to spend a lot of, also now, but a lot of days just working on teaching, other having meetings and doing paperwork, and like doing all but research. And used to come home like upset, I was not satisfied with my day. But actually, just
Zan.
Oh no, I was really into the storytelling.
It's like
I was enjoying a lot the flow.
At first, I thought that she was like crying, but can write to her.
I really liked it. It's really like a panel like she designed.
Mm-mm.
Oh.
I'm really proud of my friends.
All of your invitees, they had very good discussions.
Okay,
Here we
she's
go again.
Yeah.
okay.
I don't know what happened. Okay.
Yeah, it was a really effect that you did.
Okay. I don't know where you lost me, but
Yeah. Maybe previous slide is still like.
oh no, I'm spoiling everything.
Oh,
Okay, maybe here.
yeah, we were
But
already
I need
still at the gray thing.
gray.
Finishing
Okay,
that, yeah.
but I'll summarize everything. Basically, the thing is that once you realize that all these activity are supposed to be the work that you need to do, not everything, because many are useless, but you cannot be upset with yourself if you need to do these things. And once you realize that there are things that you need to complete, you can also better balance your workday, because what I used to do was to fit some research activities into my schedule, but actually I didn't have any time to finish that activity. So I used to come back home even more upset than I used to be. And this also helped me to have a better work-life balance, but I'm still really working on that. I just don't, I'm not so harsh with myself if I don't finish some task or if I don't work on weekends. It can happen if you have a deadline, it can happen, but it is not the normal routine. Just a final comment, and this is that when you begin doing your PhD and you are in your PhD, maybe, okay, there are all bad things that we already discussed, but you're like innocent you're just entering the academia world and you are unaware of politics and things that they ask to you because there are some rules that you need to follow. And then you become a postdoc. So you learn some rules and you can decide how to play. But at the end of the day, when you get a senior position, it's up to you to actually decide the person you want to become, whether you want to be that nice professor, you want to be the comfort zone for your students, for your colleagues, or you just want to be selfish and just think about your own benefits rather than your group, for instance. And even though you don't really have a supervisor anymore, I want just to say that you are not really alone, because you can resort to all good experiences, all bad experiences that you had in your career. And also you can count on all the people that you met on your path, like my past colleagues, my current colleagues, and my friends that I met in Copenhagen. So that's it. I want to also thank Murphy and Martina, my friends Martina, for these nice pictures. So I think that I talked a lot.
Thanks, Ali. It was really, really, really good. And you just answered one of my questions, because I wanted to ask if this dog, like, it's someone you know, or is someone that you like Steve
Marfine,
from the internet. Okay, so hi to Murphy, and thanks for this like cameo in your talk. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciated your like sort of scientific approach to this thing with the like the pie charts of your time. And yeah, I don't have like a stronger opinion on that, just that I really enjoyed it, and I'm yeah, I'm feeling like quite well represented with the half stage Murphy. And yeah.
Sorry for the pie charts, but we didn't really to have the real percentages, so pie charts are okay in this case.
Feel free to share your thoughts if you had anything to say to add or to discuss.
Sorry?
No, I'm talking to the audience. Feel free to unmute
Okay.
yourself and
Yeah,
comment
you talked already too
whatever
much.
you want to say.
Yeah. I think not.
I mean, I cannot say anything because I'm still like a baby, so but I would like to say something else. Like from what I see, it's like really important to keep in touch with all the people that you have met. You have to really be positive and also try to keep this connection and not make them hostile. Like people should you should still like approach them like it's not like you're finishing your work. It means that you finish that person. Like your relationship is gone. Like because you are interconnected between people and like it's a small community in the end. Like and that's really important what you said. Like it's not like we go to the postdoc and we forget like our supervisor of the PhD and like the PhD cohort we were in. Then we go to the like assistant professorship and we forget like who was our like supervisor in the postdoc. So like I think it's really important that we maintain like this kind of relationships in the whole path to have a support group. And this support group is making the comfort zone, as you said. So it's a very nice thing.
Yeah, that's very true. It's not easy, but that's the only constant in this mess, basically.
Only, did you also see this change when you turned to be like a postdoc?
I think this semester in particular, because I'm teaching a lecture, like a full course, the full module this semester. I mean, previously it was basically all right. I don't have much other obligations because it's only a research fellow, so I don't have the obligation of teaching. Only that this semester I choose to, to get some experience for the future. And so now I'm teaching 2 lectures, each 1 hour and a half every week. And I need to prepare everything from scratch. I don't have any material slides, coursework, nothing. So I need to, do everything from the ground. And yes, it's got a lot of pressure. So I always say that if this is only my job, this is only job, then I'm very happy to do it. But unfortunately, it's not. And even if it's not a major job, because I'm not obligated to do this, and which means I now maybe have today and tomorrow, like Thursday and Friday mostly for my research. I'm teaching on Monday and Wednesday, and I need to prepare for on Tuesday, for example. Yeah, so that's quite a lot of pressure, and I'm still finding a better way to balance all this stuff. So I'm very happy you brought up this discussion.
Whether we always burst in some of the activities. I didn't find a way actually to avoid them because you just wait to the very end when the deadline is approaching to do something. And okay, it just becomes easier, for instance, when you have already the material for a course. So you just need to refresh the content and prepare yourself, but you don't need to do everything from scratch. for the teaching part, that becomes easier with time.
Yeah. So actually, I'm very agree with what you said in the very beginning. Like being an independent researcher, you get all these works or responsibility, but not the benefit. And that's very true. Like for me, I feel like for research, especially when you're collaborating with the senior professors, of course, you are the one who carry out the main work. But on top of that, you also need to, apart from teaching, for me now, I have some opportunity to supervise like master student. I need to think about the project to provide them, and what you do to like how you supervise them. Also, possibly writing for grants. I mean, you don't have to, but in order to make your life in the future slightly easier, you need to do. So yes, it seems, especially on the research part, you take indeed more responsibility. I'm assuming you take more responsibility than a more senior person in carry out the actual work. So yeah, it's not an easy job, I think.
No, but we'll manage. I hope so that we'll manage somehow.
I also wanted to point out something that you mentioned slightly, but like I always thought that like your supervisor in your PhD journey is basically the most important part, and not like the topic and something, but the supervisor you have. But I'm quite realizing that also in this postdoc, my new postdoc era, is really important because. It can be easily, because when you're a postdoc, you have this like double thing, because you should be more independent on one side, but on the other side, maybe you just graduated 2 months ago and nothing really changed in these 2 months, okay? And so I'm finding like really helpful having Luca as my supervisor, because he's forcing me to become independent without like leaving me alone. Okay. So even if I asked for help, he forced me to be independent in the sense that he wants me to answer like important questions about like future research and so on. And this is really important because it's helping me to like develop this kind of independence from like a research point of view. And so, yeah, basically people are the most important thing in life.
Yeah.
Good advertisement for Luca today and previous sessions. I think it was very nice, good advertisement.
Come in to visit. You have spaces.
Yeah.
Oh, no, great. But it's scary, like being a PhD student, you think about these kind of things. You feel like, okay, if I just go to the industry, like, I don't have to worry this much about this being independent in my work and this kind of thing. So then it's like a double-edged sword. So being prepared is good.
Yeah, I think it could be a good question, like what kind of discussion in the future, like mentorship during the postdoc.
Yeah.
I would see it's quite different from a PhD period. So yeah, I don't know. I guess for supervisors, the criteria of a good like mentorship for PhD student and for postdoc could be very different, and how they should be properly implemented, and what is the difference that should be. I think this might be something interesting to talk about in a panel discussion in the future sometimes.
And also, I was thinking because you mentioned like mentoring in general, and I was thinking about what you said to conclude, Ale. Like at some point, you have to choose which like academic person you want to be. Okay, and I think that's also like really important, like in this I don't know, like building area, to also meet good example and bad example of people, to understand how you want to, because you remember how you were treated, and so you can like adapt better how to you want to treat students, and that's something that really like bugs me because like I have this recent experience with this student that had like a mental breakdown with me because like she feared that she was doing not enough for the thesis. And the problem is that she was scared, terrified by me being like angry with her, and I was completely not, obviously. But they thought that she was terrified by her supervisor, and like, guys, I'm not like a terrifying person, I swear. Okay. They thought that she was like that scared of telling me things, made me think about which person I want to be in this academic mess. I mean, it's really challenging to be like a good person here because it's simpler to like don't care about anyone else than your thing. But I think that it's like really an important thing to like build a network and I don't know, be a good person in general. I don't know.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, I guess one other point, a bit different, is that from your presentation and also from what I hear from my PIs and everything, everyone says yes. Postdoc is amazing. You have all the time for doing research, and then when you become a lecturer, then a professor, then you are swamped with all these teaching and other duties, everything. And then it seems like, okay, wouldn't be just nice to just stay as a postdoc as much as possible? Or I mean, there's also like the question of how much actually, to what extent, how long is it optimal, or how long is like reasonable, and when to transition, and I guess that's a, I guess depends on circumstances, but what would be like the benefits or dangers of staying for too long as a postdoc? Which I guess
Yeah.
precarity is
Yeah.
probably the, yeah,
Yeah, it depends
like
on
not having a job, I guess.
it depends
Yes,
on
also.
the country.
Yes, exactly. And also in Italy, it changed a lot, the academic progression. And like just 5 years ago, people used to have at least 4 years of postdoc. I would say 3, 4, 5, at most 6, at most 6. But also 4 years, it's 3 or 4 years, it's okay. But still, it really depends on your own life, on where you want, which country you want to live, because there are really different regulations for tenure positions. So it really depends. I just did like 1.5 years of postdoc, and probably it was just time was too short. Also because I completed my PhD during COVID. So I kind of felt to have missed something. And yes, but so that's why I think that anyway you just need time to adjust to new positions. But if you are more how to say, self-confident because of your experience, you'll just adjust sooner.
I mean, I can add something to the end. Like, for me, it's like people I see, like, they are in the, for example, like, I see a huge difference between me doing a PhD when I'm like 24 and a person who is doing a PhD at 30 years old. Like, a lot of differences in terms of like time management, leadership, and these kind of things. So I think it also depends on the age and the experience in the life, like how much you want to stay in the, like, in that phase and like try to learn more. So I think I've seen PhD students that they are in their first year and they have like a super, super, super like good in terms of like understanding things that how university works, doing lectures and these kind of things. So very much depends on the life experiences and the age as well.
Good. Thank you, everyone. This is a very amazing discussion, also the amazing seminar, the talk.
Yeah.
So because we have spent quite a lot of time, it's already past 6 p.m. here. So I guess we should stop here. So thank you very much for participating and for sharing your ideas and questions. And see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you.